Hello, Scott Chocolate here. See, Mila's kind of helping me at least read my cue cards tonight, so I don't, make quite so many mistakes in my presentation. Right, Mila? You helping tonight? Yeah, you're a big help. I know, big help. Anyway, all right. So, pizza. Gotcha on that one. Sex and pizza. My goodness, what a topic, right? Mila likes pizza. You like sex? I don't know. We're not sure. Anyway, when I was in college, I had a roommate I lived with for a while. Well, one of several roommates, actually, because, of course, she lived with about 4 guys in an apartment. But one of my roommates, we'll call him Dave. Actually, we'll call him Dave, I guess, because his name was Dave. What the hell, huh? We can call him Dave. Dave had a saying, and I think it was pretty funny myself and kind of holds true. But his saying was this. He goes, sex is like pizza. When it's good, man, it is great. And when it's bad, well, it's still pretty damn good. I've always loved that saying. It's hung with me for quite a while. But, connecting that to the Philippines, maybe we'll connect the pizza part first. Pizza in the Philippines. They have lots of different pizza chains. Not necessarily chains, I guess, but some chains. You'll know Pizza Hut's over there, so that's fairly consistent with what Pizza Hut is over here. I think, and it's been a long time since I've been to a Pizza Hut over here. They've kind of fallen out of fashion in the United States, but pretty decent pizza, I guess, over there, Pizza Hut. They have a local pizza. This is the absolute best pizza in the Philippines. It's called Yellow Cab. Yellow Cab Pizza. As King Marcos would say, it's on time. Meaning it's really good. Great pizza. Is probably maybe a little bit different, the sauce and stuff, but as good as most pizzas that you claim to be good pizzas around here in the United States. Some of the other pizzas, they have just a little bit different flavor, if you will. I think a lot of it is they don't have quite the Italian seasoning maybe that we're used to with some of the oregano and basils and garlics or whatever kind of gives that zesty flavor to that sauce, and maybe the lack of what we would consider quality cheese. I live in Wisconsin, so cheese is second nature here. The best cheese in the world is produced right here in Wisconsin. So, when you get used to that, there ain't any place else in the world you can go that you're going to get any better cheese than I can get, right down the road. But anyway, so the pizza in the Philippines is, it's okay, most of it. Some better than others, but my recommendation is Yellow Cab because it's good pizza. Anyway, the sex part, sex in the Philippines. Now I'm probably going to say, okay, maybe it's time for all the women to maybe just shut the video down. You probably don't want to hear the rest of what I have to say. So I'm giving you fair warning. If you're watching from henceforth, don't say I didn't warn you. The mindset of a Filipino is significantly different than the mindset of I'm going to say an American woman only because I'm from America. I don't really know the mindset of, other cultures, but I certainly do of the American culture. Um, they don't think in the same fashion. Um, so to connect one to the other, it's pretty much impossible. An American woman has their ideals of what they want, what their expectations are in life, relationship, marriage, what have you. And a Filipino has theirs, and they are totally different ends of the spectrum. One's over here and one's over here. The Filipino is very traditional. They have an obligation to family and to a spouse and to everybody in their life that is second to absolutely nothing. I don't really think there's really daycare in the Philippines. When I've ever been around, I've never really noticed that they have daycare. Now, a lot of that might be because Zoe, shut up over there. Goodness. Yeah. Anyway, daycare, they have a lot of family members, and they rely on their family members, each other, to take care of their kids. And I think due to probably the mass underemployment, there's just nobody that could justify paying for daycare. Now, the very few people that have a lot of money in the Philippines would just have a live-in, maid or caretaker of their children, whatever you want to call them. And that's how that would happen. They wouldn't take them to daycare. They would just have the ability to hire somebody to take care of their children. And, I don't know exactly what that would cost, but, in the neighborhood of, in American dollars, room and board and maybe at the very most $200 a month, seems very insignificant, very trivial. So, but the average family will rely on other family members that aren't working, because in an average household with 6, 8 people, chances are half of them are kids. There's a few adults, older parents, what have you. There's 1 or 2 people that aren't working, and if there isn't somebody in that family, they got a cousin that lives 2 doors down, or somebody else that they will take care of each other's children. So I don't really believe there's such a thing as daycare, where, the typical family in the United States has gotten down to, 2 working adults, a lot of women, the majority I would suspect, that shortly after they have their children, they go through a maternity leave, and at some point, go back to work, and, their kids go to daycare. So, women in the Philippines, when I get back, when I use the word obligation, that's a very used word, means a lot of different, well, it doesn't mean a lot of different things, but they have an obligation to a lot of different aspects of their life, to their family, to their children, to providing to their parents, to their spouse, to their lover, what have you. And if you've done nothing to violate that trust of that obligation is there unconditionally, and you really don't have to question it. It's a very strong factor in their lives. And the majority of Filipinos, have that same obligation to the Catholic Church. Now, I grew up Catholic, so I understand, the rigmarole of the Catholic Church and the Catholic religion. But nonetheless, that is the predominant religion in the Philippines. And, they take that obligation very seriously. So if you're in a relationship with a Filipina, and I mean a serious relationship with a good Filipina, once they are committed to you, they're, as long as you are a good person, treating them the way they should be treated, that obligation is there, forever. Like I said, there is not divorce in the Philippines, so they're not accustomed or going into a relationship or a marriage with, well, if it doesn't work out, I can always get divorced, because in their culture, that doesn't exist. So they're very devoted, very dedicated. Now, I'm not saying other cultures, American or otherwise, aren't, but you have to realize that, give or take, 50% of the American population has been through a divorce. And that's statistics, there's no arguing that, right, wrong, or indifferent. A lot of good people have suffered through a divorce. Now, Filipinos haven't. There hasn't been a Filipino that has suffered through a divorce. They have suffered through infidelity. They have suffered through men cheating on them. They have suffered through a lot of things, but not necessarily a divorce. So they go at their relationship with an obligation. And that's a word they use, an obligation. And, an intimate relationship with a Filipino, an intimate relationship with anybody is a great and wonderful thing. It certainly is a great and wonderful thing with a good Filipina. They're very intimate and, very responsive, very, without being too detailed, they're wonderful to be with. You won't be disappointed in a relationship with a Filipina. And, part of that maybe is, that obligation. There's, the not tonight, I got a headache. I don't think that's a saying in the Philippines. I think that was developed in the Western world. That's a leave me alone, I really don't want to be next to you type thing right now. So, why is that? I guess I really don't know. I would suspect it's a cultural thing that they're brought up with. I can't change the culture of the Philippines any more than I can change the culture of the United States. It is what it is, because that's why we call it culture. It's society, and what society brings upon its people. And through generations, we develop cultural norms that dictates how our society is going to act. Well, that same thing happens all over the world, and every country has its own culture. So to compare, women from the West to women, in this case from the Philippines, you're basically comparing cultural differences. Yeah, beauty is what it is. Everybody finds beauty in different things. So, beauty aside, your basis of evaluation is how you interact with one another, how you treat each other, and ultimately, how well you enjoy each other's company and get along. For the most part, very seldom will you have many issues, with a genuine Filipina. They're used to having a lot of shit go wrong in their life, so a lot of things just don't bother them as much as what it may bother somebody else, because they're kind of used to, events that, maybe the average person in the Western world may react to, differently. Not necessarily always tragic, but, there's so much poverty in the Philippines, and, to go without things, to sacrifice, to do things that you wouldn't normally do, but you do because of your obligation and your family, is commonplace in the Philippines. There's an enormous amount of people, and mainly a lot of women, that leave the country for 2 years at a time to go work in another country just to earn money to send back to their family. And in most cases, a lot of those women have children of their own, or they may be raising their siblings' children, or sending money back to them, sending money back to help support their parents, and all in the name of obligation to their family. So, they're used to sacrificing, let's say, and maybe that brings a very unselfish attitude to their personality in general, or their demeanor, that a lot of things in life to them is just their obligation. So, how does that connect to a foreigner who's dating a Filipina? Well, pretty good, actually, pretty darn good. Men, American men, I am one, so we have a lot of downfalls. We are, when we want something, we want it now, we don't want to wait. We're demanding, let's say, we're persistent, we're not going to take no for an answer. We have it's all the shit that rolls with a typical American man. I know, I am one, and I'll admit it. But if you're offended by all that, remember, I did tell you to stop watching this video about 10 minutes ago. But anyway, a typical Filipino, they'll just roll with it. Yeah, okay, no big deal. They're not, I don't want to use the word subservient, because that, to me seems a little bit demeaning, but they're very accommodating. Sometimes you almost have to, take charge, I guess, let's say, and say, okay, let's, what do you want to do, or should we go do this, or what have you, because a lot of times you leave it up to them, you may not ever really get a good answer, or you may have to give them a lot of time to think about it, to finally get an answer, or, what they may want to do, where they want to go. But, if you suggest something and say something, and say, I'd like to do this, yeah, no problem. For the most part, they're game, they'll go along, they'll go do this, do that. And, I think that works well for the average American man, because, believe that that is probably what has been lost in the generations over here in the United States, is that the head of household being the man. I honestly feel that in the majority of households, probably from my generation down, the head of household is the woman. Mainly because they've orchestrated their dominance and their control over the situation to the point where the average husband just no longer wants to deal with it, so they just let them be in control and take charge. Now, for the most part, that's not the case in the Philippine culture. The men are still the head of the household. The women have say and control of what happens. They may take care of the money, do a lot of that stuff, but ultimately, I still think the head of household is still the man. But anyway, pizza and sex. Quite a combination. The only thing else you need besides that is beer. So, anyway, I'd like to take a moment to thank all my my contributors, all my sponsors. Okay. So that was a blank. Yes, I was just joking. I don't have any contributors or sponsors. So anything that I promote on my channel is only because it's stuff that I like and stuff that I enjoy myself. So as you may notice, a beer of choice for me is a Red's Apple Ale. Pretty good. My dog of choice is a Chihuahua. Right, Mila? Come here. Uh-oh, uh-oh. Did you hear that? Yes, you're not a Chihuahua. Yeah. You're my little half dachshund. Mm-hmm. Right. Mila, you want to come here? Zoe's getting all the attention. Oh, yeah. But anyway, so to wrap up my video, sex and pizza, when it's good, it's great. And when it's bad, well, it's still pretty damn good.